G'day YouTube, warbles not a lot here, somewhere between 25.9 degrees and 28% humidity and 33% and 27 degrees. 27 degrees in the shade under the trees. So on the bright side we've got some humidity and not much of a breeze. Yesterday on Sunday I made 3 videos and made messes of all of them as I transferred 2,537 litres of dam water up the hill in 27 minutes, giving a transfer rate of 93.8 litres per minute. So I could conceivably, if I wanted to, connect the Storts fitting on this onto a 40mm suction pipe with a cam lock fitting, and then I could run this pump on dam water for 2 hours until the pump down there runs out of fuel, while sitting on 15,000 litres in the buoy wall and using dam water to put out spot fires from an ember attack. And it occurs to me that there are better things that I can do with this water. One of them is to organise some kind of a sprinkler off this, because it turned out that my grand theory of having this valve just cracked a little bit for, you know, maybe 5 litres a minute to keep the pump from getting too hot while I was walking back from the dam, which takes 6 minutes. Not such a grand idea, because there's 387 kilograms of water in the 480 metres of pipe between here and the pump. And the pump's 15 metres downhill, so the pump has to develop a certain amount of torque in order to spin the vanes fast enough in order to get enough power into the water to maintain the weight of 387 kilograms of water being held in a tube that's essentially 15 metres vertical. So that means the water needs to be moving through the pump, and the pump can cope with having this valve down here shut off, or it can cope with having this valve fully open, and it can cope with maybe a 50% throttle reduction. Anything less than that, and the governor on the generator's throttle basically gets very, very upset. And the generator's down there going from full throttle to idle and full throttle to idle, and that's why the flow up here fluctuates pretty badly, unless you just turn it on and leave it on. This is pretty good as a transfer pump, not so good for putting a fire hose nozzle on the end of, unless you're just going to leave the nozzle on. So to get over this business of not cooking the pump by having it switched off while I'm walking up here, and not just having the water sit in a puddle running out, I've come up with what I think is a system that'll work, which involves carrying the end of the poly pipe to a spot where you think it's kind of likely that if there is going to be a threat, the threat's going to be coming from. And today the wind is coming from the west, so I would say the western approach to the hut would be a good place. So we put the poly pipe down there, we go and grab a Chinesium lay flat, pull it out of its box, damn, send it off down along the driveway. And the theory is that a Chinesium Storts onto a German Storts may seal, whereas a Chinesium onto a Chinesium definitely won't. Turns out not to be very easy at all to unroll these things using a single hand, in that the hand which was holding the camera is supposed to be on top of the roll, stabilising the roll, but it turned out that I couldn't be bothered going and putting on the chest camera mount. So once again, it's a German Storts fitting onto a Chinesium Storts fitting, and hopefully it'll work. And if it doesn't, we'll find out. And by the way, one of the viewers on an earlier video tells me that you can indeed purchase new rubbers for the Stort's fittings. So that's what I will be doing. But in the meantime, if we take the end of this hose nozzle from shut, the way it is there, we don't want it fully open like that, more like half a turn backed off from fully open. As we approach the really, really high-tech mounting system. What do you think of that? Then, there, then. Hey? Isn't that clever? What about you? Good idea? And if fed full pressure, that would probably give me something like 50 litres a minute at about 30 pounds per square inch coming out of the nozzle. However, I'm going to try and cut that down to maybe 25 litres a minute by half closing. Whoops, this one. So, yeah, whatever pressure there is here, this should cut it down by half as it gets into there. I think, maybe wrong, but what I will do is take one of these nozzles, and while I'm down there with this nozzle set at the same opening on the bottom pump's valve set to half open. But because I can't model the 480 metres of warm plastic black poly pipe expanding and contracting like an artery under the pulse, it won't be an entirely valid test. Damn, I hate this cracked screen. It makes framing really difficult. Yeah, it won't be an entirely valid test, but it'll be the best that I can come up with. I'll really find out the answer when I get back up here to the clearing and see what's happened to the hose nozzle, which on that setting, I kind of expect to put about 150 litres in 6 minutes out through that and onto there. And if that works, then I'll test the nozzle at stream and different fan settings, and then I'll move the tripod, set it up facing in a different direction and leave it to water a different spot while I go back down to switch the pump off and top it back off with fuel. It certainly is a hot and foreboding day. At the moment, breezes from all different directions as thermals warm up, cook off, break away and go skywards. So at least we haven't got a really strong, steady breeze. And happily, there's no smoke trails upwind. Okay, well, about 2 hours have passed, during which time I had a visitation from the darling Dottar child, who has come and gone. So again, nozzle set, hose flaked, valve set. Off we go, off we go, off we go. 12:30. Okay. 6 minutes and 5 seconds. Here we see tide marker rock. With a view of the shoreline. Some fool overfilled it yesterday in enthusiasm and excess thereof. It's on a slight downhill tilt, so yeah, it's got oil. Ignition, fuel, choke. Try half choke. Well, 42. Off we go. Okay, so 6 minutes and 5 seconds, and as it were foretold within the prophecy, the Chinese Stewart's fittings don't actually hold water, and the whole pipeline is in fact migrating down the hill. However, it wasn't the rubber that let go, it's the actual fitting. And this is the improvised sprinkler at half pressure. Whereas that is your full flow. Whoops. And that's quite an impressive little bit of raining. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think I can probably fix that with a decent hose clamp, unless it's the actual... If I push that, it'll let go entirely. Anyway, what I came here to do was that. And then, rather than drag a canvas hose full of water across the ground when I don't have to reposition the sprinkler, just have to leave that running to please the pump while emptying the hose before repositioning the nozzle. And then, having watered the driveway, 10 seconds. Oops. Obviously it's a one-way tripod. Well, let's try that. Seems to be working. I'd call that half throttle. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I like it. Okay, so we are now looking at 4 minutes past now, and off I go. So the plan is I use the Aquarius program pump and the pipeline to fill up the 3 buoy walls, and then sprinkle with a spare hose and the spare nozzle on the tripod, shifting it every 5 or 10 minutes while using the other 3 fire hoses and the other pump to put out embers and spot fires, and that should work pretty well. And then after about an hour and a half, perhaps hour and 3/4, I set a couple of hoses on tripods with nozzles as sprinklers running out of the buoy walls while I come down the pipeline with a fuel can and refill the bottom pump, and then the cycle starts again. So I need all 3 nozzles and all 3 lay flat hoses to pull this trick off. And here's mistake number 1, because I've got a camera, I didn't think straight, and I'm carrying a coffee cup instead of a fuel can. 6 minutes! Tide marker rock. Ciao.